There is one detail about Jeremy Clarkson that almost never makes the highlight reels. For 27 years on British television, nobody ever once told him his work was good. That quiet, buried fact explains more about the strange respect he now shows a self-taught mechanic named Mat Armstrong than any headline could. And once you see why a man who conquered television could envy a bloke in a workshop with a socket set, you won't watch either of them the same way again. Clarkson didn't arrive on television as a star. He spent years grinding through regional papers, filing motoring columns nobody remembers, before a producer, looking for someone who could make a boring car feel thrilling, gave him a camera in the late 80s. What followed was decades of success built on something rarely discussed: a total lack of ownership. Every script was checked, every joke weighed, every opinion filtered through people above him, managing the risk he represented. He described the place as full of clever people who simply had no idea how to handle talent. Real bitterness in a man admitting the biggest show of his life never made him feel appreciated. Then it all came apart in 2015 over a dinner dispute that ended with him striking a producer. The corporation suspended him, then quietly declined to renew him, and the face of their biggest franchise was gone within weeks. What he did next mattered more than the scandal. He walked across to a streaming service and rebuilt the show with his old collaborators on a deal reported at around £160 million, and for the first time nobody held the power to end things on a whim. He's since said the new team actually reacts to his work, says it's good, out loud, the very sentence he waited nearly 3 decades to hear. Freedom turned out to be one word he had never been allowed, so when a man with that exact history looks at somebody like Mat Armstrong, he is not admiring a stranger's hobby. He is looking directly at the freedom it took him a lifetime to win. Mat's route into public life had nothing to do with executives or pitch meetings. He was a BMX rider until injuries ended that, and almost by accident began filming himself rebuilding a wrecked Audi his partner had crashed, bought back for a few £100s from an insurance write-off. There was no commissioning editor, just a workshop, a camera, and a refusal to accept a written-off car had to stay dead. During lockdown, he resurrected a battered old Bentley and posted the rebuild. And that video pushed him past 100,000 subscribers. He never stopped climbing. Today, he sits close to 7 million subscribers with roughly 1 billion views, built without a single executive approving a word of it. His comment section became the only editor he needed, his audience the only boss he answered to. That's the real difference. Clarkson spent nearly 3 decades asking permission and rarely receiving it. Mat has never had to ask once. Both share the same instinct, the same appetite for doing what polite institutions think shouldn't be done, yet one generation apart, the balance of power flipped entirely. One fought his way past the gatekeepers his whole career. The other simply never encountered them. To understand why Clarkson's attention landed on Mat, you need the story of a wrecked hypercar and a billionaire who felt compelled to make a phone call. A young currency trader in Miami named Alex Gonzalez owned a Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport, one of only 60 ever built, making around 1,500 horsepower and priced north of £3 million. He crashed it into a truck, destroying the front end. Bugatti's own repair quote came in around $1.7 million, later reduced to roughly $600,000, and he still refused, since he was already paying $70,000 to $90,000 a month just to finance owning it. The car was declared a total loss, inspected by a Paris specialist, and listed on a salvage site next to flood-damaged pickup trucks. Gonzalez bought his own wrecked supercar back and flew Mat Armstrong over to rebuild it. Bugatti responded by blacklisting the car's identification number, so no official channel would sell parts for it again. The message was unmistakable. The company still considered the car theirs to control, regardless of who legally owned it. That decision reveals something manufacturers rarely admit. When Mat later took on a wrecked Ferrari hybrid making roughly 819 horsepower, the physical damage was the easy part. The floor was pierced, the suspension torn away, the wiring gutted, yet none of that was the true obstacle. Once he rebuilt it and turned the key, the dashboard demanded he take it to an authorized dealer, refusing to start until Ferrari's systems approved. The real barrier was never steel or carbon fiber. It was software, and only the manufacturer holds the key. Ferrari would only certify the car if an approved body shop signed off, and since Mat had fitted a track-only race kit that could never pass road legal inspection, approval was permanently out of reach. He reportedly carried around $11,000 in parts to Ferrari alone, the repair spiraling toward what one writer called a $131,000 ordeal. This was never about safety. It's a business model built to keep owners dependent forever, and Mat, with nothing but a workshop and a camera, quietly proved the lock could be beaten anyway. That's exactly the fear Clarkson understands better than almost anyone alive, because gatekeepers held him in that same grip for 27 years. When he looks at Mat, he sees the road he was never permitted to walk. Both came from nothing glamorous. Both refused to take no for an answer. Clarkson dragged a tired television format back to life with charisma. Mat drags dead cars back to life with his hands, and the underlying instinct is identical. What differs is the price each paid. Clarkson bled for decades for his independence, and even then it was taken from him. Mat was simply born into an era where that cage no longer existed. He never had to dull a joke for a nervous manager, never had to wait years to hear his work mattered, because millions tell him that in real time, every day. Clarkson has openly admired that Mat holds complete creative control over everything he makes, the exact thing television never gave him. He understands that a man alone in a garage can now build something that may dwarf anything the traditional industry produced at its peak, and that isn't comfortable for institutions that once controlled every gate a talented person had to pass through. There's a strange symmetry tying the two men together. Mat once rebuilt a wrecked Lamborghini Aventador purely to chase a lap record set by Clarkson himself, a 1:59 that had stood for years. His team came closer than anyone who tried, yet still couldn't beat it. The old number held, even as a new generation threw everything at it, the new guard sprinting flat out, the old guard still just out of reach, both linked by one number on a wet racetrack. None of this means the old institutions are sitting still while their leverage disappears. Earlier this year, the very broadcaster that once managed Clarkson's every word announced a partnership with the platform that built creators exactly like Mat, moving its own programming onto it and funding a training scheme to teach the next generation how to become online creators. The organization that kept its grip on Clarkson for 27 straight years is now courting the kind of creator who never needed it in the first place, cap in hand at the door of the workshop that beat it. Consider what that means for Mat. Traditional broadcasting could hand him an audience far beyond car enthusiasts, into living rooms nationwide, but it would carry the same old cost Clarkson paid for nearly 3 decades. Somebody else deciding what he's allowed to say, somebody else holding the leash. The real question is whether anyone who has only known complete creative freedom would trade even a slice of it away, no matter the audience on offer. Clarkson, more than almost anyone, understands what that trade costs, which may be exactly why his admiration for Mat comes wrapped in something closer to a warning. So the locked Bugatti, the warning glowing on a Ferrari dashboard, 27 silent years, and a sudden charm offensive from the people who once held all the keys are really the same story told in different clothes. It's gatekeepers slowly realizing they no longer control the only door, and a man in a workshop quietly proving that to millions, night after night, without ever asking anyone's permission to be watched. What do you think Clarkson actually saw when he looked across at Mat? A younger version of himself finally set loose? Or a quiet warning about where this is heading? Tell me what you honestly think in the comments.